Hello, I am delighted today to be back with two of my special friends. We've got Nirmala Krishnan, who's going to be really talking to us today about sacred geometry, and Danielle Matthews. Now, this is the second in the podcast series that Danielle, Nirmala, and myself have done. So I will put the links below to my first one. But today we're going to be talking about a really special subject. And it's going to be looking at how sacred geometry can help each and every one of us maximize our life and whatever that looks like for us as individuals. And we're going to be really talking quite a lot and understanding a lot more from Nirmala's amazing knowledge about the flower of life, which is a very special sacred geometry symbol. But before we delve into the details, I'm going to ask my lovely guests to introduce themselves. So can we start with you, Danielle?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Catherine, for having me on. And I think what I do in my work has all had to do with ASEA for the last 8 years. And it's how my world actually intersected with you, Catherine, and with Nirmala. And so I think it's so beautiful that in that space, I've been able to meet the most amazing people. But to give everyone some perspective on my journey and how I got opened up into all of this, I was in a bad accident 10 years ago. And my world changed. I was a biologist, I had been a teacher, and all of a sudden it was like the universe had different plans for me. And I went on a journey with my own health, searching for answers to get my brain injury out of my world so I could get my full health back. And ASEA entered my world and ended up being the answer that I needed. And so I felt that it was something I was meant to pay forward. And I've spent years educating other people about it and connecting with the most incredible people. And I intersected with Nirmala, reaching out to her about that. And the moment I met her on Zoom, I knew this woman was incredibly special because she started telling me about the redox molecules and about the ASEA and bringing in this sacred geometry. And I had no idea what it was all about. But over the years, she and I have gotten very close and I've gotten to learn a lot from her. So I'm excited that she's on here today to share more with you all.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Danielle. Now, Nirmala, can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Right. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Danielle. I'm glad to be here again. Okay, so I work with sacred geometry more on brain influence and where the brain is being influenced geometrically. So to bring in the alignment within individuals and to see what is actually shadowing them. So I work totally trying to align them at the same time to sequence a way that they can now move into their path, flowing into their path without any interruption. So my work involves a lot in brain work that I do, and then I observe the geometry, how it's kind of in communication with me. So I did a lot of investigation in quantum physics and the mystics of the universe and the science behind energy, which lead me to do further research on human geometry. So being a holistic health practitioner and operating in a quantum level, I work with individuals trying to find out where's the core of their issue is or problem is, or where their harmony is being blocked. So I try to unlock it for them so that they can move into their path and trying to show them the path that's really in relation to them in a very much broader, very high conscious level. So that's the kind of work I do. I've also done studies and research case studies based on geometry and in brain influence. I did my PhD doctorate in integrated medicine in Quantum University as well. So there you go in simple form. Yeah, that's what I've done.
And this fits so beautifully, ladies, because there's no accidents there. I mean, Danielle and I, just to show how this all works and comes together for the benefit of our listeners, Danielle and I actually connected a couple of years ago, just briefly, and we're both biologists, we're both holistic health practitioners, we're passionate in all the things that Nirmala has just described. And we had an instant connection, which then rekindled this year. And then Danielle introduced me to Nirmala, and Nirmala, there's so many areas that I've been so passionate about over the last sort of 15 years that you've then got such a detailed knowledge of. You know, I've seen Nassim Haramein live, incredible work that he does. We can look at Dr. Emoto's work in terms of, you know, the hidden messages in water. What we're going to show you all today is how you can apply this beautiful stuff to your life and find out more about how it's relevant to each and every one of us, and how all these synchronicities of connecting all these different bits of the boxes fit together. So before we delve into that, Nirmala, I know it's such a complicated subject, but can you just explain to the listeners, you know, what is sacred geometry?
Okay. Yeah, if you all are listening to this, is basically everybody's now drawn around the earth to sacred geometry. So this is a best time for everyone to now just to go into this space of sacred geometry. Now, sacred geometry is a 6-dimensional light language. So it's an information that's so infinite. That means is as within or as without. It's like it's there and it's here with all of us. That means in nature, in human, in universe, in earth, it's all around us. It's like a universal measurement, a universal record that's being kept within us. So in short, we can't exist without the sacred geometry. Everything is measured, everything is aligned, even from how we look as humans to how we coordinate with the nature, how the planets are positioned next to each other. You know, everything is kind of in a sequence of the universal light language. That is sacred geometry.
I'm just taking a little bit of time to absorb that. I mean, Danielle, this has been very powerful influencer in your life, hasn't it, since you've met Nirmala?
It has, yeah. It was interesting because as soon as I met her, I thought I want to do a session with her and feel into what does it mean. And Nirmala, I hope it's okay to share. I started asking how she sees this and what it is, and she shared with me that since she was little, she kind of saw light, and she saw these shapes around people, and she said she would play with them and kind of move them, and realized that she had this gift to be able to help make things start spinning. Because the way it was described to me, and Nirmala, you're going to have to jump in if I do this wrong, but she described how, we're connected in. We have these sacred energy centers, right? Our chakras, and each of them has a specific type of geometry and a specific shape. And sometimes they're not flowing. And that's how she's able to know, okay, where is it that this person is, as she said, isn't in harmony? And how can we shift that to get that flowing? And then life just kind of opens up. And it's so beautiful. I'd never heard anything like that. I'd studied yogic philosophy. I knew about the chakras, but I didn't know about this geometrical piece and how it all kind of flowed together. And I certainly didn't know anyone that could see it and interact with it and help kind of click it in. So, your life can get into a flow.
Just to explain what Danielle has just mentioned is that sacred geometry is like it's not something that you can touch or feel or see. Yes, of course, with the platonic solids you'll be able to see shapes and all that, but it is something just within you. It's just circling around you. For me to just observe something like that, it's like your heart is completely open, and then there is so much of patterns and colors and shapes and numbers that's right in front of me. And it's about me trying to remove everything to see what is this beautiful being is all about. Is what is exactly missing for this being to look at that beautiful geometry that's right in front of them, that is more kind of more attending to this being as completeness, as in completely in light. So as what Danielle has mentioned, I've been playing a lot with this, that sometimes I myself got confused that I'm not looking at somebody in the physical level, that I always thought that the geometry is actually what we are meant to look at each other. That's how everybody has been looking at me, or I'm looking at them the same way that I'm looking at them. But then it came to a point that I realized that it took me 20 over years, of course, to understand that actually I can remove it and look at them as how a third dimensional being can look at each other. So it took a long process, but the understanding is that everybody's geometry has to go in very much in a kaleidoscope. When you really expand the love in your heart, everything's supposed to be flowing in beautifully like a kaleidoscope into your heart. So the process of it is what makes it very unique about the sacred geometry.
I just love this so much because, as you all know, I work a lot with animals and they're humans in that order. And I'm sure that animals pick up all this. I mean, they're obviously not sitting there necessarily talking to each other about sacred geometry and the flower of life, but I'm sure they see us in the level that you've just described, Nirmala, when they're interacting with us, because they're so incredible at reading our energies and seeing what's really going on rather than what our mind is telling us is going on. So
yes, yeah, sorry, go on, Catherine, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, have you got any experience of that, Nirmala?
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, I was about to say that, but with animals, it's unconditional love, right? It's completely unconditional. They don't know how to feel envy or jealous, or yes, they do feel it, but the thing is that it's completely unconditional. So their geometry is so much easier to attend than the human geometry, if I, to put it into perspective, because the way they come in, the way they interact is completely, I'm open, this is me, and all I want you to is take me in your hands, be my mom or dad, or make me part of your family. The geometry sequence of animals is so exciting, like a horse. When you go closer to a horse, they always say that a horse is a right brain influencer. So anybody who's touching a horse, their creative skill, their creative brain get activated, okay, with the horse. But when you look at it in geometrical sequence, it's a beautiful way that it flows. The way it flows is like around your crown all the time. It's like you don't have to make any adjustments immediately. Any humans getting in contact with the animals, their crown is where it start working through, because they come, as I said, the love is the huge topic when it comes to geometry, and animals give them unconditionally. They're so openly. So humans' acceptance to it, the minute they accept it, and that's the reason the geometry between owner and the pet, even though we're calling it a pet, the pet is the one that is having ownership to the having ownership to the person, than the person having ownership to the pet, when you really look at it, because their geometry is so much holding, so gripping, that you are listening to the pet more than the pet listening to you, because you understand every movements of this animal, the sentient beings, and how they're moving and doing everything, because their geometry will be so much locked with the human mind. So there is the entanglement, beautiful entanglement that happens through the silver cord in that space. So it's easier to identify the geometry sequence, or align the geometry sequence with animals than humans, in other words. So it's easier to work with animals than humans. That's what I'm trying to say, but not in a bad way. But I'm just literally saying that's how open animals are, the sentient beings are.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% on that. And I think that would be a really fascinating topic for another podcast. But today, from our first podcast, we've had a lot of questions and a lot of interest about the flower of life. So could you introduce this to us, Nirmala, and explain what it is and why it's something that should be so significant to all of us?
Okay, before I even start that, Catherine, I really have to bring this out to you in your podcast. The last session when I was doing this podcast, after that, the number of people who booked sessions with me, incredible people I saw. It seems like they're very much, so much geometrically aligned with you. They were talking your language. They were so much aligned with you. So I can see how they were so connected to you geometrically. Like, I felt like I'm talking to you. Every individual who booked the sessions, who came in, everyone has the same aspect, like I'm talking to you. And they also, a lot of them really, told me how much they are so much in love with you, with your podcast as well. I definitely have to say this now, because how much you became the voice, how much you were kind of highlighting a lot of things that was troubling them, or they couldn't connect to, and they suddenly found a community that they can be part of. They became something about the truth they can speak about, or something that has been wearing them down, and you became the voice for it. So for that, I think a lot of them were so grateful, and I think I need to share that gratitude with you. That your podcast was wonderful, and every single one who booked a session, I could see they were like this. There was quite an entanglement they had with you geometrically, So that was really fascinating for me to watch. A person, even when you are doing your podcast, how you are completely in love with this, and you are bringing the source and information, and the geometrical alignment went down to the right people, the right energy. Just is like a whole lot of people who are lost, who doesn't know where they're leading, just jumped into this. And you held it very beautifully. All right, so I just have to mention this before I go into the flower of life. All right, so I'm really
Thank
grateful.
you. Oh, thank you so much, because we really have got such a great community, and you can see that from the interaction we get. And that means so much, because I think the reason we're doing this, and we're doing this today, and we've connected so much, is because we are also open and curious and want to really help people really live the best lives possible. And so when people do reach out like that, it's really special. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Catherine. Okay, to start off with the flower of life. Now, when I'm doing a lot of geometrical, talking about geometries and all that, it seems like I just go away someplace and come back. Sometimes my eyes are not on you guys, so don't take me wrong. It's just that that's how I flow, right? Because I'm following something here, and I'll look down, look up. So sometimes it's just the flow of that energy is like that. So the flower of life, even when I'm mentioning it, my heart is expanding so much, because in the last 2 days, it's all about the flower of life. And for the audience today, if they are going to listen to this, there's something remarkable that's shifting in every one of you right now as we are speaking, right? So starting with the flower of life, it's when we see a flower of life, I just got a crystal here in selenite. If you can see it, that's a flower of life. That's the combination, that's the coordination of a flower of life. Okay, so that's the pattern of flower of life. You can see how beautifully it brightens when you synchronize it with light. So the flower of life is a harmonic proportion, and source of a strength and power. So if you are holding a flower of life right now, the geometry is all about the harmony proportion that you're holding, not just for yourself, for earth, for universe, for nature, and everything around you is kind of changing at this very moment. The minute you're thinking of flower of life, you're already shifting the earth grid. That means you are helping Gaia in one way or other, going into a harmonic pattern. All right, it's an infinity of life, and it's a connection with creations, and it's also a connection with the universe. So that's what flower of life is all about. And it's also a connection with time and space, interestingly, because when you are connecting to the flower of life, we are kind of going into every aspect of life that exists within the flower of life, how everything comes from the source and how it's all connected as one. Now, there was a few questions that was thrown to me from the last session, whether the flower of life is the seed of the life is the beginning of a flower of life. And it was a very interesting question. Actually, the fruit of life is the beginning. The fruit that falls from the tree to the ground, and then from that fruit, the seeds grow into another tree, and then the flower of life comes from there. So you can see there's a huge cycle that's going through. So why is flower of life is so relevant? Is because the fruit, when we are talking about the fruit of life, the intention has to be very clear from a human mind, from a human brain, from a human perspective. That fruit is the clear intention that you have. When that intention drops, that's what is going to grow into your life, and that is the flower of life. All right, I'm going to go very deep into this in detail. So the earth is a living geometrical crystal with grid, right? It's a crystal grid, and there are 19 complete circles in a flower of life. So you can imagine having a flower of life, and the earth is kind of in that space, and there is grid in every space that you can think of, right? So when you look at it, it's kind of a line like that, and there are circles. There's 19 circles around it. every circle is an aspect of your being. It's like you're looking at your own template, like looking at Akashic template of yours all around it. All right. So that's what a flower of life is all about. So the 19 complete circles, the flower of life, is overlapping circles arranged in flower-like pattern with six-fold symmetric like a hexagon all around it, right? It is believed to contain, as I said, by ancient times. In ancient times, the flower life is all about the Akashic records. So every circle is like it goes through a phase of your life. So how many times you're going through that circle is all about the function, the stages that you're going through. So until you complete that circle, you can't go to the next circle. And until you complete that circle, you can't go to the next circle. Now, in saying that, it could be you're following something patterned from your dimension as well. So until you learn about each circle, how it's operating and what's happening within yourself, you're going to go through the cycle again and again before you lead to the next circle. So every circle in a flower of life is stages of our life. And when we complete the whole system, that means we complete the mission in this lifetime. All right. So the flower of life, it's so relevant, even by just understanding, just even trying to have just a general understanding of the flower of life is very relevant, because we cannot move away from anything, because everything already structured, everything is already in it, everything is moving according to what's happening, and there's a huge grid that's holding you within the flower of life. So when we talk about the flower of life, as I mentioned, the fruit of life also plays a part, because your intention, your clear intention, is the one that's bringing you back to the flower of life, right? The fruit is the intention. Without having a clear intention, the fruit drops and the seed grows, and you be repeating the same pattern again. And instead of moving from one stage to another, you are stuck in a stage because you're not clearly representing a clear intention. You don't have a clear intention. So every time the seed drops, it grows back into the tree, and there the flower comes again, and you're having the same petal. You're stuck in the same circle again and again. So if you were to kind of come back to having a clear manifestation, clear intentions, of coming out of your issues or your problems or whatever that's happening in your life right now, you just have to believe that everything is happening 180 degrees to the future. That means it's 180 degrees. Everything is happening for you as how you don't see it. So most of the time when somebody comes to me, they say that, no, I can't change the pattern. The pattern is always there. So the flower of life is representing it, saying you have to shift. So no matter how many times you're going to go through the pattern, there is definitely going to be a shift. So the fruit that is standing there is an intention. When you open your heart and you have a clear intention, I want to create my own sanctuary. I want to feed the animals. I want to care for the animals. The minute you say that, whether you are doing it or not, the fruit drops, you become the field of energy, and that flower of life quickly swap to the next circle. That means you have already passed the stage. You're going to the next circle. And then that next circle becomes the creative force. Just because you had a clear intention, the whole earth is now vibrating in that energy. You might just think that you're just one singular person, you can't make a change. You're wrong. That one person, the one grid, the one thought will make the collective consciousness, will create the whole pace. So the flower of life is complete collective consciousness of all of us together. It can't be represented as one. All right. Even though we all hold one circle to each other, we all representing the flower of life, but it's a whole loft of the grid that we're holding together. All right. So the intention has to be very clear from where you are standing, where you're holding. Don't hold on to that you're powerless. Don't hold on to the sadness. Don't hold on to the grief. Move your stage. Move to the next step of your life. And then let the fruit drop, and the new seed that's growing now to create the flower of life, that's going to be beautiful. Because with the flower of life, it has got its life in it, right? So it is going to bloom as far as it can, and it's going to expand as far as it can, and then it'll dry, and then it'll fall, and then we restart again from the fruit of life again. Okay, it's a huge topic. It's got numbers, it's got colors, it's got algorithms, it's got anatomy, it's got a lot of things. Then I have to run a whole workshop here. So I'm trying to make it very general, very simple, by saying that the flower of life, it's all about the belief of your clear intention that you are creating. Whatever you are creating right now for the fruit to drop, to become, to grow, to get the seed to grow into the tree. Sorry, I'm mumbling here, sorry. For the fruit to drop and the seed to grow into a tree, that is your energy you're pushing to the whole Gaia, you're pushing to the whole earth, you're pushing to the whole community. And every one of you are playing a part in that, which is very, very relevant. And I really wanted to bring it because in the last few weeks or a month, I'm seeing a lot of things that resonating with the flower of life. And if everyone can understand, at least understand it, they know that just by having the understanding that the grid is always there, the light is within there, and we are holding it, we are just holding it here. It's all in our heart, it's in the placement of our heart. If we can put our hands there and say, this is the flower of life, and this is what my emotional intact is, and this is where I'm going to release myself and grow into happiness and bring the delight to myself, to my family, for my love, to the earth. That's all you're doing. All right, it just start manifesting. How many of us have manifested a lot of things even without realizing, just by a very clear intention? Yeah. So just to explain a little bit about inside of the flower of life, the cycles of the experience happens within the circles that merges and manifests essence of creation, which expand the experience of learning to understand the flow of the next stage. So if you're stuck in one stage of that circle, because it's not because you're stuck, it's because you're doing a learning. Maybe you still haven't learned from that experience. So the experience is repeating itself again and again. So I know so many people come in front and say, I made these changes, I've tried this and I've tried that, but nothing is changing. It's because the pattern is repeating itself. So the circle is kind of tilting, I mean, it's kind of circling, it's kind of going in a circular motion, but there is no grid to it because nothing is changing in you. So it's got no reason to stop. So it's just going in a circular motion. The minute you change your pattern, the minute you change your life, the minute you change your thought, you're jumping to the next circle because this experience is done. All right. Do you ladies have any questions?
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
This is just got, that's why I was frantically trying to scribble a few things down. So you go first, Danielle.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting. Both of you know I've been working on this ebook, right? And I've been sharing like what I've learned on my journey with spirituality. And it is so crazy to me, Nirmala, because what you're describing is like what I wrote, but in totally different language. Because to me, it's always been about observing, like so stepping back from life and looking, okay, what's showing up? How am I interacting and reacting to it? And realizing that it's happening for a reason. And so like you're describing, it's like you're in this circle, you're in this pattern. And the way I've always seen it is, yeah, it's like I'm being challenged again and again and again, and it's kicking up something within me. And until I deal with the thing within me, it's like you can't break free. And so the way that I like have learned to break free was through meditation. It was yoga nidra. And what was so beautiful about this type of meditation is that you put an intention. And the way it was described to me when I learned was like you drop a seed when you're in this meditative state, because you can get into the subconscious. It's like things are more fluid. It's not so as solid as it is when we're in the conscious state. And you drop in this intention and then it starts to manifest. And so as I'm hearing you say, like, that's the fruit that you put in. So then you can move from, this circle on to the next, and realizing that like it's all there to serve us. Like life has always flowed in this way for me. It's like every challenge has led to like the next beautiful thing opening. And to me, what I'm hearing you say, it's like, it's so empowering to know, like having this knowledge to me, it's like well, then it's all just a beautiful game that's designed for us to raise ourselves. And then I didn't even realize how it's all connected then to one another, and universally how we're then shifting things. And so the question I had for you is, well, how do you help people who are in, this and wanting to move to this? Like, how would you tell people to then apply, like, knowing now what we know? Is it in a meditation? Is it writing things down? Like, what is it that helps create that fruit that, leads into us moving into the next
Okay,
piece?
it's a very good question. Every individual is different. Every individual who's going to come in front, everybody's going through their own motions of life. All right. So, and being in this third dimensional earth, we are kind of we have our how would I say, we have our pattern, we have our procrastinations, we have our hold as well, and we have our security, we survival and everything. So the minute we are in a survival mode, I find that a lot of people find it very difficult to move. They find it very difficult. Even very interestingly, it was through Catherine's podcast the last time, I came across a lot of beautiful individuals came for my sessions. Amazing energy they have, and some of them I brought them under the ocean, some I brought them under the into the tunnel, and and some were, wherever I could represent elements, I brought them in according to what their geometry is. I find that they had amazing energy, and there's a lot of them who just went through that, and they say, okay, this is me, I'm stepping in, this is what I'm going to do. And I said, okay, done, okay, job done. Well, so they are moving into the, and it excites me when I see them in that way. But there are a few individuals who are beautiful, amazing energy, even for myself to witness. I had to step back and say, wow. And I'm just wondering, are they realizing who they really are? I saw people, beings who are from ancient, that, in connection with their dragon self, with their unicorn self, to that extent that I found them beautiful, amazing. Unfortunately, they are contained or content with what they're doing right now, that they cannot move because they don't want to move. Basically, it's their journey. I always respect that it's their journey. It's about showing it, and after that, it's up to them whether they're going to make the next stages of their life or they're going to move. A lot of them do move back and hold themselves, basically because they don't feel secure. They do feel that there's always a fear. So I there's not much I can do. I can only navigate them that the path is clear, and they have seen it. I witness it, and we come back after the session. We are having the discussion, and I'm telling them the possibilities, what can be done, and what can happen. But yet, at the end of the day, it's an individual decision, right? I'll do my best to bring them, because they're already seeing it. Visualization is the best of all confirmation to break a pattern. But even after seeing it, they're holding back. It's their journey. We have to respect that, because they're not ready. Not everyone is ready to jump off and say, okay, I'm going off with my dragon. Nobody's going to fly off with their dragon. They're not going to do that, right? So even metaphorically, I'm saying it's a dragon. That means there's so much of power. If they walk into the spiritual alignment, into that geometry that I can see the strength of that, if they walk into it, they become very powerful people. They become people who can really help and restore this earth. They become a very great grit to the earth itself. But it doesn't happen all the time. Yeah, so I respect individuals' journey. My job is to bring them, show them, and then I leave them after that. It's their decision. If that answered your questions, Danielle.
It did, yeah. And I think visualizing is such a powerful piece to move. And how do you know where you are? You said there's 19 circles, and when, is it multiple lifetimes to get through? Do people make it through in one lifetime? Like,
Okay. Because the flower of life, it's believed to be the Akashic records, right? It's believed to be. So which side of the Akashic records you're calling for, and you're holding on to it, because you are holding on to that Akashic record. because that's the reason I'm saying you have to have a very clear intention. All right, if you want to become a doctor, you want to become a savior, you want to do something with community, you really need to have that clear intention, that that you ask for assistance in every way, in every angle, that you want to be released from this pattern, that you want to be that. This is what you want to do. You have to be very clear in your mind. You want a right partner, again, it's the same thing, right? So if you are stuck to that, that means it's like you are stuck to one of your Akashic space where it's repeating itself again. That means you've done that lifetime, previous lifetime, and you're just doing the same pattern here, and you're not moving away from it, right? So each circle for even in ancient is written saying that it's all Akashic records, that it's there. So you're filtering to the old pattern is because the old Akashic that you have in them. I mean, Akashic are ancient and old, but you're not making a wise choice there. They are saying that you can become a queen, or you can become you know, I don't want to say anything worse, but the thing is that you can be that low, or you can be that high, depending on where you're putting yourself. But you are making a choice of staying in that circle. You are making that choice, right? So what I'm saying, the flower of life is there. It's a divinity that's here to give you. Use it. It's all within us. Focus on the flower of life, and then go and create a clear intention and break the pattern, and then go into the next stage of your life. The minute you go to the next stage of your life, you'll try to move completely and go into the circle, and you'll finish. Yeah.
Wonderful. I've got a question that links into this. So we've opened up. I can't stop smiling about this. I agree with everything you just said, Danielle, as well. So with you saying about setting the clear intention, I've done another series on my YouTube about manifestation. How does the emotion? So everyone knows I love Joe Dispenza. So he talks about where you've got a clear intention with an elevated emotion. Will that help that food drop and take seed quicker if you combine it with the right emotion with your intention?
So is that question for me? Or
Yes,
is it
sorry, for Nirmala. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay. All right. So I love Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Nassim, Dr. Bruce Lipton. They're beautiful, amazing. Yes. So your emotions. So how Dr. Joe Dispenza explains is that when you are doing it, he says that don't do it like, okay, I want to become I want to have the best partner. I want to have a beautiful relationship and all that. So don't say that, don't just go by saying it. He says that you have to act it. You have to, I know Dr. Joe Dispenza spoke about the movie, Mind movie, or, it's like you go in and you start acting as one. That means you already have a partner, you're holding his hand, holding her hand, and then walking in the beach. So he says that put that into your feelings, put that into your emotions, so that you are feeling, you're kind of altering it. So that's how Dr. Joe Dispenza. So putting your emotions into it is so important. So you're not just walking and say, I want that. You're saying, I've already taken this, I'm feeling it, and it's so beautiful, I'm holding it in my hands, if it makes sense. Yeah?
Absolutely. It's a bit like nurturing your garden. I'm doing all my herbs and everything as we speak. The more you put the love into it, we know that more they're going to flourish. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what exactly he meant. Dr. Joe meant as what you're saying. So the intentions coming with the emotional relation to it is very important. That's why that means we are coming out of the pattern to think a little bit different, because every time we go in fear, we say we want a great wife, and then when we go in front of someone, even before seeing the someone, you're already creating these blockages. This is not going to happen. It's not going to happen because you already said it's not going to happen, right? Even though it's meant to happen. But when you're walking in and you're looking at it and you're opening up I'm not saying you have to choose the person who's sitting there, but if you go with the open heart, that you want to make this person a friend, not even a relationship, just a friend, you already opened your heart. Then you can see something is bringing you there. So the emotions that is created in that space is friendship. That friendship can become a relationship. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm giggling
Any
at
other
that now
questions?
when we're looking at that. Yeah. So in terms of people, I think that's quite clear with people, but I just want us to make sure that we cover for anyone listening about how they can apply this. So we're going to finish off with a meditation, not quite yet, but at the end, which can really help people. But have either of you, starting with you, Nirmala, first, got any practical tips as to how people, I think the first thing, if I'm right, is recognizing that if you're in a repeating pattern, and then making a clear intention to change that. So Nirmala, could they, if they don't know exactly what they want, because that can be a big issue for that, could the intention be at this stage that to get people started, to get those wheels moving, to actually open up to whatever the universe wants them to receive?
The thing is that it's not that they don't want, they don't have anything that they could think of, or they don't know what they want. It's because of the fear. Most of the time, if they say they don't know what they want, it's because of the fear that they cannot get. So they don't even want to think that they can reach for that. All right. So what I'm saying is, just reach to the highest, and maybe you might be getting 2 or 3 levels down, and then you can slowly step up to get to where you want it to be. So have something if you don't have an intention, then you won't be upset. If you don't have something is missing in your life and you're aware of that. So you have to identify what is that is missing in your life. What is not making you happy? Identify it and then ask for it, and then reach for it. So the actual experience that you're going through, if it's so fantastic, if it's so fabulous, then you don't have to ask for anything. So if they're coming and saying that they're not sure what they can ask for, it's because they are in fear, completely in fear. That's how I'll look at it. Yeah. So the best way is always to have a clear intention. So the intention is to reach out for something, then nothing. You don't have to go and look for a whole garden. You don't have to create a whole garden in your backyard. At least go and visit a garden that's beautiful. It's still an intention. It still can be done. So the intention is very clear. So that's the reason my work has always been bringing them to know what they really want. Sometimes it's interesting because I can see so much of qualities and so much of beauty and so much they have in themselves, but they don't think they are because of whatever has been repeated or something has happened in their life. They don't think that they are more than that. So as I said, there's no high and low in anything. Everybody's in a balance, and everybody can ask for anything they want. The flower of life, the universe is opening your heart right now. Create the intention and just go and see how excited you feel when you see it for the first time. Go and experience it.